the disproportionate power, political power of the rich. And we're seeing this down south with people like Elon Musk. But we have that here. We have that here with Ken Sim and Chip Wilson. And I'm super proud to run with COPE because COPE is a party that has always stood for renters and stood for workers and will fight against this political power of the rich. Rent control, that's something that one COPE councillor won, Harry Rankin. Or free transit for children under 12, that was Jean Swanson. So I'm proud to carry on that tradition, and I will fight for you. I will fight for integrity at City Hall. I will fight for housing. Thank you very much. That's you.
Next, Roller Girl. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, ladies, I don't want to leave anybody out. I moved from Kitchener, Ontario, back in year 2003. Year 2001. I became famous in year 2003. I direct traffic. I save people's lives. So I put up my life for other people. And if I could do that, why can't we all do that? The police board, they get paid so much. They get $800 on 1 minute. I get paid nothing. I get paid by love. I get people saying, thank you for saving my life. And I take that as cherish. I've been stomped on by the Vancouver police. I sue the Vancouver police. That's why I have a business. I stand out for diversity. Diversity means a lot. Diversity means everybody. I don't care who you are. You're blind, deaf, crippled. Everybody should have BC housing. BC housing. Other countries and other cities in the States give $2,200 for people to live on. Here, on welfare, you only get paid less than $1,000. Who can survive from less than $1,000? Nobody. You could probably rent a closet, and we can't live in a closet. I just want to say, hey, it's like, this is my legacy, and I want it to continue on. I want to get bigger. And people that city council should, like, east side should have one city council, the west side should have another city council, instead of everybody just saying, oh, what can we do to change everything? It's all confusing. The Kim Sim wants to say, well, oh, here's the 2 city councils that we're going to have. They're already the front runners. Why aren't they here? Right?
They're here.
One thing, we're all here, and just say, just treat everybody equal and caring and loving each another, not too hard. It's very easy to be mean. It's very easy to say, oh, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. I'm afraid you're up. Well, you'll get more. Time.
Okay, Roller Girl, yeah. So vote for me, okay? Thank you.
So that was the timer I took learning how to use it. I don't have a cell phone.
And it's proper pronouns, sir.
Absolutely. We'll move on to Theodore.
Hi, folks. My name is Theodore Abbott. I'm running for City Council. I was born and raised in this community on Commercial Drive. I've been here my whole life. I went to preschool here in this building downstairs. I learned to skate in this ice rink. And now I skateboard at the courts just down the way. And the youth rec center in this building, in this complex, was probably a big part of keeping me out of trouble in my youth. In this park right here, Grandview, I've probably been to more protests than I can count. This is my home. I know this place like the back of my hand. I know it well enough to tell you that you shouldn't be going to Moja Coffee because they're union busters. You should go to Continental Coffee because they're just a little bit of just a smidgen of the local knowledge that I'm bringing to you. I'm running for city council because the city is corrupted by billionaire developers right now. It's being run by an elite class of people who have not your interests in mind, but the interest of a few, and that needs to change. I'm running because I'm 27 years old and I can't really imagine a future in this city. I'm running for city council, but at the same time, every day I'm simultaneously plotting my escape plan. I can't tell you how many friends have ended up in Halifax, Victoria, on the island, Montreal, because they simply can't afford to stay here. And that's a travesty. We're losing our community. As Patrick Condon says, a community that doesn't provide a place for its essential workers, its service workers, it doesn't deserve to call itself a city. So on April 5th, when you go to the polls, I want you to keep in mind the team is running to turn that around. I'm running to turn that around. And we're trying to dawn a new era in the city of Vancouver, one that puts people at the table and not developers. On April 5th, vote for team.
Good evening, everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yay.
A lot of Irish names up here, I note. My name's Colleen, which means girl in Irish, Hardwick, and I was born and raised in Vancouver. I sat on Vancouver City Council from 2018 to 2022. I was originally elected as an NPA councillor, but left during shenanigans at the board level, which some of you may follow. I was one of the founders of the reboot of TEAM with a livable city or livable Vancouver, because when I was 10 years old, my father, Walter Hardwick, was one of the founders of the original TEAM. And at 10 years old, I was walking in protest marches trying to stop the freeway going through Chinatown that would have knocked out Strathcona and the whole north end of the city. So I grew up around a very strong sense of community responsibility. My father also taught urban geography at UBC for 37 years, so I grew up with urban land economics at the dinner table. So I have the background knowledge and experience with City Hall, and I know all too well what's been going on there, particularly since 2008. For those that have been following Vancouver politics, we saw a turnaround happen under Gregor Robertson when Penny Ballum came in as city manager, that the business model changes that happened to the city have affected us where we are today. Essentially, the city hitched its wagon to the development industry at that point, more or less selling zoning to generate revenue to fund its council priorities. And in doing so, inflated land values exponentially. And this has done nothing except for widen the gap between global wealth and the local economy. Today is my daughter's 39th birthday, Shannon. And my other daughter, they're now, what is it, geriatric millennials? But my grandchildren are 6 and 3, going to Henry Hudson, where my grandmother started when it was first built. All of this is being lost, and unless we come up with really well thought through, careful, tactical solutions, this is going to continue down the same path. And that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm standing up again. That's why I need to get back on council, so I can help affect that turnaround. Thank you.
So folks can line up here. If you want to be put into the line without having to stand, just give me a wave and I'll
This is
make
moving
note of
fast.
it, and I'll
This is
put
moving
you
faster than the other
on
one.
your questions.
Excuse me, we've just got another candidate at the back. Can she come in?
Yeah, please. Come.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm late. Sorry, I have to solve a problem. I'm a case manager for all the British Columbians. I'm Jennifer Desena, running for an independent city council. I work for children, I work for youth, I work for seniors, I work with PWD, and I work for everyone. I ask for grants, I ask for resources, housing, food, shelter, anything you like as a case manager, I know. It's hard to get that one if you are not in the leadership. It's hard to tweak policies if you are not a leader. So give me the chance to be a city councilor, and I'll make sure you have a home. I don't have two minutes, but this is where I am right now. Thank you.
So what we're going to do, just so that we get as many questions in as possible, we're going to give the candidates 1 minute to answer. You can direct your question to one or a series of candidates. I'll leave that in your hands. We won't necessarily, I mean, tell us who you want to answer it, because otherwise we'll throw it to everyone, and then that'll be that.
Glad you could make it.
So if you have a question for the candidates, go ahead. I'll be in the back for the candidates' benefit. I'll be in the back, giving you a wave like this when your time is just about up.
Perfect,
So
thank you.
1 minute each. Go ahead.
My name is Michael Robert Kaditz. I'm a founding director of Stanley Park Preservation Society. And my question is for each party and each independent. Stanley Park belongs to all of Canada. The City of Vancouver has been entrusted to care for Stanley Park, which it leases but does not own, and especially to care for its ecological integrity. My question is, do you believe that the City of Vancouver should be removing tens of thousands of ecologically valuable trees, including old growth trees from Stanley Park, without credible, peer-reviewed scientific justification?
Good question.
Fuck.
How do you guys want us to answer?
For
However you
everybody, right?
choose.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we'll start that side. I'll keep mixing it up. We'll keep it all. So,
I'll stand to the
Lucy,
side and
you
let you
wanna
answer.
first?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, Stanley Park is part of the jurisdiction of the Park Board, and one thing that I'm really serious about and is avoiding the problem that we've gotten into, which is council interfering with the operations at Park Board. So, but I am super excited to hear that people are concerned about environmental issues. I'm an environmental lawyer. I've been advocating for environmental protection my entire life, and I hope that the people who are concerned about environmental issues in Stanley Park are also going to help us hold CanSim and ABC to account on the big issues that council does have jurisdiction over, which is things like keeping the gas ban in place on new housing, so that we don't have fossil fuels used to heat new housing, and also to make sure that we provide safe, convenient forms of transport, so people have an option not to use cars, because transport and housing are the biggest ways that council can influence environmental protection.
Could you answer the question, please?
I did answer the question, and that is that it is not in the jurisdiction of council to make decisions about that. So I'm not going to interfere in council, in Park Board, because it is not a councillor's place, and that's how we've got into the problems that we have with the Park Board being abolished by CanSim.
Hi. Where did Michael go? Oh, there he is.
I'm right.
Hi, Michael. Thank you. I had the opportunity to sit down with Michael and some of the members of the Stanley Park Preservation Society a few weeks ago. And it was a really, I felt, very lovely conversation. I think we left in a very good place. But it's the same as we need this to be a public forum. Blackwell is the company that was brought in to both assess and log. That's a little bit suspicious, right? So I really do think that we need all of this information to come to light. I'm a huge fan of evidence-based decision-making. There is a lawsuit right now that's happening, and I'm hoping that that will bring any mishandling and misdealings, if they occurred, to light. If that doesn't actually ever go through, I still hope that we have a public forum where we can all sit together, go through it all, and try to work to make a better situation. It's a crappy situation either way you look at it. We don't want to be logging any trees there, but I wouldn't. Yeah. Anyway, my time is up. Thank you so much, Craig.
Yeah, I love the passion. The more I learn about this issue in particular, the more I have questions about it. But yeah, I also met with the group. And it seems like a no-brainer to support that independent scientific review. At the same time, I also want to acknowledge that our host First Nations have recently just had a sacred fire to commemorate the loss of these living beings on our land. So I think that's also important to understand that to bring the host First Nations in terms of any decisions that would be made between council and park board.
Here.
I say we should just keep our trees and that's our air and, leave the wildlife alone and just let it be. Let nature take its course.
Yeah.
Do you see this? Before it was, the trees are there. But now, if you've been there, there's none. I'm advocate. I'm a tree lover. I'm a hiker. I've been there. I've been here for 11 years, and I've been all around. And if you've observed that, just like Abbott with the hair, now it's like a bald man. That's how you compare Stanley Park now to a human being, So you don't need scientific review to say to City Hall, stop the illegal logging. It's a common sense. It's hurting that we are having this kind of issue for our natural resources. They're not even using that as a paper. The trees are lying down, it's dead, there's nothing to do with the trees. Thank you.
No, that's good. I think that's fodder for a new campaign, a new ad campaign. Imagine me with no hair.
Right, that's it.
I mean, that'll really get people out. I think Sean did a really good job of touching on that. Team is calling for a halt to the logging in Stanley Park. We're calling for a halt to the logging in Stanley Park because we think that we need an independent risk assessment and a full scientific review before the logging can continue.
That's what I said. Stop chopping the trees
We need
down.
to stop chopping the trees down.
Right.
BA Blackwell got the contract, and then they also did the risk assessment. That's really fishy, okay? Why would you give a logging company the contract to log a forest? I mean, it's like that's what they're gonna do.
Because the money,
Yeah,
the turf,
yeah, I
the
mean,
turf.
lots of money. So independent tree
That's
assessment,
what it is.
risk tree assessment is what we think needs to happen. And yeah, thank you for your question. Halt the logging.
Plant more trees, plant more trees.
The threat to our elected park board is profound. Without the checks and balances that are in place with that park board, the city will assume control over all city-owned land through the real estate department. So to me, the fight for the elected park board is existential and needs to be supported. Why they've made the decision around Stanley Park in this way is a bit perplexing to me. It is out of scope of council's ability to say that we must do this, but we can certainly shine a light on the need for a legitimate process. All these people would not be involved if there had been a legitimate process. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Hopefully not in Stanley Park. But structurally,
It would just take one smoke and then it's gone.
Structurally, though, it does come down to, we want to protect the elected park board, as an organization, but we do want to encourage them to be doing everything they can, because this many people would not be concerned if there wasn't a legitimate problem. Thank you.
The Stanley Park issue has a tremendous moral hazard to it, and you have somebody giving themselves power that they interrupt the system. So I'll leave it at that. My family history here in the Grandview area, my father went to high school at Britannia High School. But my question is, how are we going to deal with the climate crisis that is in existence, and what can we do through the various boards have. And it's open to everybody.
Okay, thanks for your question. Well, the question was, what can we do at the civic level to address the climate emergency and at the various levels and boards?
Sure. Yay, green gets to start. Really, honestly, we have to be looking at this in a really pragmatic manner. We are in a crisis situation. We were warned about it years ago. I like to look at the fire that happened down in the Dunbar area, 41st. There was a massive fire that was very nearly out of control, that all of the firefighters in the city had to rush to that area, as well as pulling from Richmond, as well as pulling from Burnaby, and it left the rest of Vancouver completely vulnerable. This is a huge safety issue in our city, especially with the amount of fires and the dryness in the summer because of climate change. I mean, we can plant tons of trees, that will help. Yes,
which
we need
fire was that?
the one on 41st and
By the Safeway?
no, it was in August.
Construction fire, what's that got to do with climate?
Jesus.
Sorry.
Fires, climate, let me get back to where I'm at. Hopefully I get a little bit more time there. Yeah, I'm gonna reclaim that time. When we have these heat domes and it dries everything out, that is a climate problem, and it starts at fires. Anything, flicking a cigarette will light a neighborhood up.
Yeah.
Not to mention our firefighters are our first responders. They're usually the first people on the scene when it comes to any health emergencies, right? Or big accidents, or so we really need to be supporting our firefighters. I really think we should have more budget for them so that we're not leaving the rest of the city vulnerable when another fire like this happens. Thank you.
I think the climate crisis is intrinsically tied to the housing crisis. I think that if people have to travel 2-3 hours to get to the city to work 2 or 3 different jobs, that's not tenable. So I think, honestly, housing people so that they can live where they work in and live in healthy, happy communities is something that's going to go a long way. Another thing is free and affordable public transit all across the city. This can be done on a city council level. As I mentioned earlier, Jean Swanson did it with children under 12. We can expand that. You mentioned the heat domes. Another thing that we can do is max temperatures in apartments. This is something we can do. This is something that's been called for. We have minimum temperatures in apartments so that we don't freeze in the winters, and we can have maximum temperatures in the summers in these heat domes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roller Girl. It's just gonna take one bad arsonist to blow this whole situation up. It happened in other cities, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of that. If we don't take action now, that probably was gonna happen, because this criminal system is catch and release, and it's just gonna take one crazy person to do it. To monitor all these polluters, all these diesel polluters, all these black smokes, who's gonna monitor all that? That we have to take control of that. Our ozone layer is getting thinner, and that's why our temperature is going up and up and up and up and up. Last winter, one of my friends died, frozen to death. Released from the hospital with a gown on and died. That shit has to stop. That stuff should not happen. this heat dome and all that, people shouldn't have to die. This is a rich Canada. We live in the Vancouver area. Canada's, we should be all on BC housing. Every house should have air conditioning, controllable air conditioning in emergencies. Thank you very much. I love you all. Please vote for me.
I was able to talk to an organizer from the bike pedestrian organization. And they say, continue to advocate for pedestrian line street, bike, the cyclist. And also, for my end, I would like to propose giving number, how do I say this? The plate number, that whoever starts from 1 will not be part of the Monday group to access the road. So it lessened the congestion from the traffic. Then whoever is in number 7 will not go to the road, will not use their vehicle on that particular day. Therefore, we are lessening the congestion on that time. So that's one solution to make a greener infrastructure to our transportation. Number 2, we have to make sure that our buildings are sustainable. The new buildings right now for housing can be public SROs rather than private SROs. So that's one part of the policies that we can tweak on. Thank you.
So what can the city do to address the climate emergency? There's one thing I think we could do right away, which is expanding programs like Quest Food Exchange. Quest Food Exchange is a local nonprofit grocery that sells food that otherwise would have ended up in the trash. They have special permission to sell food that might be slightly past its expiry date. I'd like to see an expansion of this program because I think it's really effective and I think it stops a lot of food from going in the trash. So Quest is great. A lot of my friends use it. But let's get down to brass tacks. If we want to address the climate emergency in Vancouver, we need to be looking seriously at low-rise wood frame construction. Building high-rises with concrete and steel is seriously unsustainable. Low-rise wood frame construction lasts a whole lot longer, and the whole building process is much more sustainable. And so I think that when we see projects like the Vancouver plan and the Broadway plan, which are bringing, and the super towers on Broadway and Commercial, these are bringing massive high-rises all across the city, and it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be unaffordable in that way, but it also doesn't need to be so unsustainable.
But where is this wood going to happen? Where is this wood going to come from?
And then the other kicker, too, is if we're building out all of these high-rises, we're going to have to importing a lot of American steel. But if we go with mid-rise wood construction, then we're going to supercharge the Canadian lumber industry. And I think that's an overlooked aspect of this whole problem. Okay? Thank you so much.
So when you think about it, we're talking about 114 square kilometers from Boundary Road to the University Endowment Lands. That is Vancouver. What can Vancouver control towards addressing the climate crisis? That's a really important question. In order to be able to do that, especially with all of the growth pressure that's going on, we have to prioritize recovering our balance. And that's not what we're seeing out there at all with the city right now. We're seeing damn the torpedoes, build, 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 concrete and glass towers all over the place without infrastructure for mobility, for community amenities, for commercial activity. Where do we shop? Where do we eat? None of this is being thought through because it's being driven by the profiteering of the development industry. So if there's something that the city can do, is to unhitch its wagon to the development industry and start to focus on recovering its balance in the best interests of our neighborhoods and our communities.
Hear, hear.
Our city is already experiencing the climate crisis with heat domes and atmospheric rivers. We have a climate emergency action plan, and KenSim and ABC have defunded it. So many people had to come out, 140 speakers, when Ken Sim moved a motion to reverse the ban on gas heating in new housing. I was speaker 139. It was a very long wait, and I completely rewrote my my presentation over the dinner break on the second day of speakers. But I was very happy to join so many Vancouverites who actually want to take action on climate, because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do because, you know, we had a question the other night about why young people aren't getting involved in politics. We've got a mental health crisis for young people, and one of the reasons is they don't see their leaders showing leadership on the issues that affect them most, that they worry about the most, which is their future, whether they're going to be able to afford housing in the city of Vancouver, whether the adults are going to do anything about the climate crisis. Well, One City has a detailed action plan that we want to implement on climate, and it's in at onecityvancouver.ca, and I've run out of time, so you'll have to look there. Sorry.
Just one more time, if somebody doesn't feel they can stand, and that's standing in line, it's not easy for everyone, just give me a wave and I'll try to put you on the list, I'll put you in line virtually, okay? Go ahead.
I wanted to address the proposal for the Safeway property at Broadway and Commercial. If you're aware, it totally contravenes the Grandview Woodlands plan, which was negotiated with the city, and the compromise at the time was 24 stories. Now, of the 3 towers, the highest is 43 stories. So I have 2 questions for you. These are yes or no answers. The first one is, would you support the proposal to rezone the property so that they can build 3 towers on that site? The second is, the developers have referred back to a quote-unquote letter of inquiry that they did in 2018, that they said allows them to not have to do 20% below market housing. And because of that, they may be granted only 10%. So my second question is, would you support them getting only 10% market housing in over 1,000 units that are going in on that property? Thank you.
Yeah, to start with your, great question. Thank you. Yeah, to start with your second question, I believe my predecessor, Gene Swanson, voted against that. 10% is ludicrous. If you consider that 2/3 of Vancouverites can't afford market rentals. 2/3 of Vancouverites can't afford market rentals. That's an atrocity.
Really?
So absolutely, I would not vote for something like that included only 10%. And this is an example of an REIT. So this is a real estate investment trust that is doing this. So we need to stop the global money that is flowing in. We need to stop the loopholes that allow them to jack up our rents across the city, not just at this development, but across this whole city. And yeah. So the first question, sorry, I lost. There were yes or no's.
The rezoning.
Would I support a rezoning if it included 20% housing? Absolutely. Of non-market housing, it should be even higher than 20%. Honestly,
The rezoning is related to the height of the building.
yeah. So I would support I mean, COPE has always fought for renters, so I would. Sorry, I'm out of time, but I would support that for sure.
Wow, what do I think about that? I think 50% should be for low-income housing. BC housing should be implemented. Where are we gonna go grocery shopping if they're gonna take that away? Are they gonna build a new grocery area for the public? Go next.
I will oppose to that rezoning application. Why? It should be 50%. 50% for low-income families and 50% for those with high income. It can be done, You just have to communicate that publicly. This is not just for city councilors that going to sit down on it, but you guys can advocate for that. We go to the streets, we go to this demand, and we go together. That we can decide for you. Because according to that plan, they will do it. According to, how do I say this? A group known as No Mega Towers at Safeway, I am with that. So 50% should be lower market value. Because I'm also a renter. We all know. Seniors should have the housing affordability. PWD should have a rent, they have only 1,200 per month. How can they sustain that if we don't have affordable housing? So we have to advocate together.
No, they get evicted.
Yeah.
They get evicted and put in a hospital, and they don't know what to do with them because of the situation like that. Go ahead.
So I think this project is totally out of scale. As you mentioned, we had the Grandview Woodland Area Plan that was put together over a number of years with members of this community. It was, a laborious process, and the city has thrown that out the door. This project, in its current form, I would vote against it. And I met with one of the key organizers in the No Mega Towers at Broadway and Commercial, and I asked them, what should I say about this project at this meeting? And they said, make sure that you underline that One City and the Greens are in support of it. And so I'm doing that right now. I think that obviously we need way, way more below market housing in that project, and we need to build in a form of housing in that project that's actually affordable. People like me, born and raised on Commercial Drive, I wouldn't be able to rent in that building. So who's that for? I think it's out of scale. And what people will tell you is that if you don't let them build those towers, the developers will go elsewhere. I say, let them go.
Yes.
Let them go. Because I don't want those developers. I asked people, is it okay if Vancouver was a city that created multimillionaires in development, the development industry, and not billionaires? I think we would all be okay with that. Thanks.
No, I would not support the rezoning. Rezoning of this kind is inherently inflationary. And as I've tried to get across to people multiple times, the city adopted a model of selling zoning to generate revenue, which has led to exponential land inflation. And as long as you're inflating land values, you are never going to achieve affordability. Think about it. Get it through your head. Don't get sold on the fallacy of trickle down. This has been going on for a long time now. When I was on council for those 4 years, 100% of every single rezoning was approved. Why? Because the city has a vested interest in taking a piece of the action, which now goes into general revenue. This is wrong-headed to do this rezoning. And I'd like to also point out a Coriolis consulting report from 2014 that showed at the time that the city of Vancouver had 20 years of existing zone capacity. They didn't need to do any more zoning at all to accommodate population growth, peer-reviewed population growth. So why are we here? Because we keep doing the wrong thing. We keep pouring gas on the fire, and instead of solving this problem, no to rezoning this. And it's a fallacy about the percentage, whatever percentage they pretend that they're going to give. It's all a business model. Thank you.
I have towers going up in my neighbourhood, and I know that it's very jarring when people's neighbourhoods change quickly. It's difficult. Change is one of the things that's hard to cope with, and I understand. It's also hard to cope when you can't pay your rent and you're facing eviction, or you're living in endless fear of being dem evicted or rent evicted, because you know that there's no way you could find housing in your neighbourhood if you were evicted from your current housing. We have a housing crisis, a housing shortage. Ken Sim has declined to approve new housing in any areas apart from on top of old housing. One of the difficult things about running for council is that you have to say uncomfortable things that people aren't going to like, right? I would vote in support of this development, and I know that that's not popular. And I'm prepared to stand here and back Christine Boyle's record on council and say that there's a housing crisis, a housing shortage, and market housing is part of that solution. And if decades of councillors had made decisions to approve housing, then it wouldn't be so jarring having enormous towers going up in a single family neighbourhood. I'm sorry that that's not a popular view. I would like to see the two ABC councillors here also to defend their party's records. I believe that we're in a housing shortage and that market housing and non-market housing are part of the solution.
Kick him out, kick him out.
Let's be respectful. Come on, let's not boo the candidates. Like we can all disagree on things, but booing, like let's be real. We're not at a hockey game, right?
The American anthem is not playing right now. Okay, so here's the facts. This has not come to council yet. So One City and Greens have not actually voted on this because it hasn't actually been at council as of yet. The proposal hasn't gone. The problem that we're facing here in this neighborhood is that the commercial Broadway is part of the transit-oriented area per the provincial mandates. So they are mandating certain amount of density in those areas.
By the way.
Pardon me? Okay. So this is being mandated provincially. So as far as density in these areas. So this is where we, as the city council, as the city of Vancouver, how can we mitigate the damage? I don't want to see over 400-foot towers in that area. I don't. I truly do not. The rezoning to me seems inevitable because of the provincial mandates. But what can we do? I can stand there in council and I can fight for better supportive housing percentage. I can stand in there and make sure that people are protected if they're displaced. I can stand there and I can fight for the things that are actually realistically capable of being fought for, given the circumstances that we've landed in. So that's what I can do. Factual based.
Okay, so my question is, where do you stand, each of you, on what has happened in the city in terms of the ABC for giving developers from putting money into amenities because they claim they're going to build affordable rental housing, especially in a neighborhood like this, where we have less green space in the west side of Vancouver. We have a Britannia that's 50 years old, and we need those amenities. So I want your answer on that. Thank you.
They want to build high rises here. That's shuttling. That's shuttling. They're trying to stop shuttling, but they want to build high rises. We don't get too much sun, so they want to block the sun, so we can age older and we can die younger, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. When it comes to ABC, there is always a chance to communicate our issues to them and their issues to us. So it means there should be a compromise between us and them. And that is you giving me a voice to City Hall. I'll bring you all to City Hall and stand there and talk to them. Hey, we don't want this. If you have amenities, give it as, you know, the paper that we need, that you will provide these amenities to us. It should not be, you know, verbally said, but it should be written and legally. And if there is a legal cost to make it to the court, then we will go there. This is accountability. This is not just hearsay. They should be accountable for this, and we will be accountable for our safety. This is a health and safety issue, not just for residents, but for people working here. So I'm Jenny once again, vote for April 5.
So let me start by answering this question by saying that if Britannia Community Center was on the west side and it was in Kits, the renewal project would have gone through years ago. Okay, that's a fact. This is a great example of money falling through. I mean, the money was there. The entire situation was a bit of a debacle, and I think that this community has got the crap end of the stick in terms of that whole project. There was an era in Vancouver where we leveraged community amenity contributions. We leveraged developer contributions in a way to benefit the public good of the city. That's no longer the case. We've entered an era of carte blanche development. I was speaking to some folks earlier at the table. The most recent CAC I like to allude to is the crystal chandelier that spins above yeah, that was a CAC that we got from Westbank for the Vancouver House. I mean, just a travesty, right? These contributions used to go towards funding, I don't know, a new pool, building a new school. That money used to come back into the community. So what I'm running on is to return to a state of being where the city acts as a regulatory body, where the market isn't just allowed to act out of pocket and do whatever it wants. And so if you elect me, trust me, I'm going to be regulating developers as they used to be, and not just this carte blanche crap that we have.
Fantastic, right?
Yes, of course. We don't like the crystal chandelier.
So the ABC giveaways should not be a surprise to anyone. These guys have hitched their wagon to the industry. We're going into a by-election right now, and there's, apart from being able to get two men on the chessboard, there's not a whole heck of a lot that we're realistically going to be able to do. This issue for me is a larger one, as I'm trying to get people to wrap their heads around the city's business model that has been adopted has enabled this. It's enabled centralized control by Ken and his cabal. The land is the meat, and the predators are circling. And they are going to continue to do that until they're stopped. Putting this young man and me on council, you got to believe that we're going to do what we can to draw attention to the mistakes that they're making. But it's really the 2026 election that we need to be thinking ahead to, because we need a majority on council so we can turn the ship around. Again, continuing down this path is not going to be a solution. We're never going to be able to have affordable housing, and these guys are going to continue to do every giveaway for their pals that they can.
So I've been knocking on a lot of doors over the last few weeks, and one of the consistent things that I've heard is that people are upset about how infrastructure is not being funded, how services aren't being funded. Things are looking tired and run down. I know there's a section of the seawall that's going to be out of commission with a detour probably for years and years, and it's just a product of poor planning. But there are certain realities that we've got to face. We don't want property taxes to go up inordinate amounts. We want to keep property taxes down to reasonable levels of increase each year. Ken Sim and ABC have been putting property taxes up a lot. They put them up something like 20-something percent, no, 12% the first year. Anyway, it's going to be something like 25% by the end of this year. And but people aren't seeing the results of that in their communities, and people are asking where the money's going. But the reality is that we can't have it all. We can't have no population increase, no increase in property taxes, and heaps of new infrastructure and services. So if I were you, I'd critically think about which parties are promising everything to everybody and which parties are being realistic about the decisions we have to make, the cost savings we have to make to prioritise what's important.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so again, just wanting to get to the facts here is that it's been a race to the bottom, really. There's a lot of people who have touched on the system being broken. We just have money that's not being funneled to where it should be funneled. Look at the police budget, right? How do our streets feel any safer?
Nope.
No. Right?
I'll make you feel safer.
So we need to be looking at this. I know that there's some things where some of these developer payments are getting deferred. And then if they don't follow through, then we can have a lien as a city on that property. But frankly, we need the services now, right? I can't get my kid into daycare. She's 2 years old, almost 2.5, and we can't find daycare. These are the types of things that we as the citizens of the city, we need. We need these services around. We need the health centers. We need the daycares. We need the infrastructure that Lucy's talking about. And the money is instead going places where it's not needed or not being used well. Again, this comes to transparency and accountability with this current council. We need to know exactly what they've been using this money on. Sorry, I'm out of time. I'm getting fired up.
Yeah, I think he stole my line about the VPD.
Oh,
It's
no.
something. You know, we've been doing a lot of these meetings, and that's my line. Come on. You were mad that Theo stole your line before, so come on. This is my lane. $800 a minute. I think you said that before. That's where the money is going. To the actual numbers, 23.68%. Increase in property taxes. You don't add the percentages together, remember that. And to Theo's point about the west side versus east side, I don't even believe that. I think that this guy doesn't care about any community centers across this whole city. Because I think, you know, and I...
Ken Sim, not...
No, sorry.
This guy.
Yeah.
This guy.
That's right.
I don't think he cares about any community centers. I think we're all in agreement that he's in the business for his rich friends, and yeah, we absolutely need to look at where the money is going, and we absolutely need healthy, happy communities, and we need to fund all these community centers and more pools and more public amenities. It's just a no-brainer. Come on, folks.
Woo!
So if anybody here is elected, you will still be going into a majority ABC voting block. I'm fairly confident that everyone here would do a good job in
Knocking them down?
highlighting the shady things that ABC are doing. But my question is, what things do you think you can get through in council as a minority? What things do you think you can get through with working with ABC that they will find undeniable? I've been pretty impressed with how, you know, the Greens, Pete and Adrian and Christine, thank you, have been able to work in a really difficult situation. And what priorities do you think realistically can go through?
Who's turn is it? Is that for everyone?
I think it's Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Mine? Okay. The only thing that realistically and practically, because I am a case manager, I'm always making sure that youth should have grant for business grants because they are the future. And this will entice the climate change because they are very savvy right now, very techy. So all of this can be an idea to put into their business and make sure that they are well fed. So it makes sense that I'm focusing on the youth, age 18 to 25, and supportive housing, yes, it can be, but realistically, I can push towards granting business startups to the youth right now because they can be in the positive side where drug addiction can be mitigated, rehabilitation can be mitigated, detox center can be done, especially in downtown east side. There are a lot of youths that are having suicide. Sorry to say this, but as a grandparent, as a parent, this can be done in the civic level. And I will advocate for this as a future city councilor. Thank you.
In the ABC party right now, they're not the party that they were in 2022, that's for sure. Internally, we know that they're falling apart. At council, they're swearing at each other, they're booting people out of the party. I think that there is an opportunity in the next 18 months to perhaps broker some more folks to leave the party, sit as independents. On council, I think that having 2 people elected is really important because you need a mover and a seconder. And if I was elected, I would use my platform to be making a lot of noise about projects like the Broadway plan and the Vancouver plan, which the mega towers at Safeway are an expansion of or an expression of that kind of blockbusting, gentrifying development. Being on council, until 2026, we can bring media attention to these issues. We can make a lot of noise. We can move a motion, then discuss on the floor. And I think that would do a lot of good to make people feel like they're being heard. Because right now, Vancouverites feel like City Hall has completely turned their back on them, and it's because they have. And so if I was on council, I would be taking that as an opportunity to build the ground game and establish a turnaround in 2026. Thanks.
It's more than a feeling. City Hall is not listening, and they haven't been for a long time. Residents are impediments. One of the things that I did accomplish when I was on council was to put in place the independent auditor general to provide independent oversight over staff's finances. Up until that point, all of the city's finances was being overseen by the city manager and city staff. And it was really, really critical to be able to have that oversight, to be able to have the ability to be looking into fraud and waste. And I saw that as one leg of the stool. That if you need 3 legs on a stool to stand to fix a lot of the problems around transparency. The other is the baseline review, and I don't think anybody could argue that we need to go back and look at what just happened over the last decade if we want to project ourselves into the future. We need to know how the budget doubled, where did the money come from, where did the money go to, in order to course correct. And then finally, we have an integrity commissioner whose role has been threatened. We've talked about having lobbyist registries, which we don't have. The developers are in and out of council chambers on a regular basis. So I think things can be done in those areas, working with the existing council, regardless of their motivations.
I'm really proud of Christine Boyle's track record of achievements with this council under tremendous pressure, working together with Pete and Adrian, who are here today. Thank you very much for your service, to achieve things even in a minority, with ABC and Ken Sim as a majority, under tremendous pressure, under attack. Ken Sim and ABC brought motions to the Integrity Commissioner against Christine that she had to engage council to defend, and still got things done, still brushed herself off, worked constructively to achieve things on this council. I've been working with this council to achieve things. There are there's traffic calming infrastructure, road safety infrastructure on streets around Vancouver that wouldn't be there without my advocacy with this council since they were elected in 2022. I haven't won on everything by any means, but I have managed to achieve things by working constructively with people that have broken my heart, that I disagree with on so many things, but I still get up and work with.
Where did the person go who asked this question? There you are. Wonderful. First off, I don't think 2 minutes is enough time for me to answer this question, so I would like to talk more. But this one right here is a perfect example of what can we do. We do need 2 people. If I'm elected, I have Pete Fry, who I have been working very closely with, so that I can hit the ground running. We can be seconding each other's motions. Last week, I think it was, he tried to put an amendment on to a motion that was brought forward to remove $1 million worth of grant funding for vulnerable people. And all he wanted was for the city staff, I believe, if I've got this right, to look into this matter a little bit further to see how it would affect people. And no one would second the motion. He couldn't even get it tabled because no one would second it. Shame, absolute shame on that.
Fuck.
So that is why it is so imperative that we get people on in these two seats that know how to work together. The Greens are known for being cooperative. We're known for finding common ground so that we can move things forward rather than obstructing and keeping everything at a standstill. Thank you very much.
Without being too presumptuous, I think Pete would work with me. I think Lucy would work with me. I think Annette would work with me. I think Annette would work, or I think Rebecca Bly would work with me as well. But I don't think anybody actually answered the question, which is like one thing that you would do, right? I think that was the question.
That you think you could do.
One thing I think I could do, I think I could reverse the pause on supportive housing in the downtown east side. I think we can do this. I really think if one progressive candidate gets on, and Rebecca Bly and Pete Fry and Lisa Dominato, we can vote this out. And it would also make sure that Ken Sim and Brian Montague actually have to show up to work because apparently they don't like doing that.
Hi, I live in the downtown east side, and like I live near the fire department, and there's a lot of wasted income, taxpayers' money on drug users, saving people's lives. I don't mind doing that, but there's got to be some sort of housing structure for them to rehab. A lot of people are dying unnecessarily. As my friend died coming out of the hospital with a gown on and froze to death. That's unnecessary housing. That shouldn't happen. And if you elect me, I'll try my best to help other people that need help. I do have a small business. I never had a small business grant. Never. But I would like one. Like a small a small business like this. I'm famous because I sued the cops, the Vancouver police. Boo. They're overpaid. More funding should be going towards people like me, towards entrepreneurship, towards car-free days. We have to have a community. And Vancouver, like back in 25 years ago, there was a community. Now where is the community? Lost, moved away. Marginalized, moved away. Can't afford it. Oh well, too bad. That's your problem, not mine, because I got the money. You don't. You're gone. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think everybody on this panel has expressed in some way that we are in a housing crisis. I think everybody knows that we are in a housing crisis. We desperately need more affordable housing. We need a lot more types of housing. And there's been some focus on the Broadway plan or the Safeway site. We have a huge swath of the city where you can only build single-family homes.
That's not true.
There's a huge part of the city
That's
where
not
you can
true.
only build single-family homes.
Hasn't been since July 2018.
That is not correct. My question is, would you use zoning tools to end the apartment ban and allow 4 to 6 story apartments across the city, including places like Shaughnessy and the West Side?
Sorry, you're interrupted.
Well, if you say something that's incorrect.
Well, you could respond to him like when it was your turn.
But it was a premise of a question.
Can we let the
Why don't you answer it?
I'll have to.
Go ahead and go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
No, I'll start.
Okay.
We'll stay. We'll stay. 4 to 6. Was that what you saying? 4 to 6? Absolutely. 4 to 6 stories. We need more of that kind of housing. I'm all about mid-rise wood frame housing, densifying all across the city. I think that kind of housing, it needs to be the right type. I think that we need to make sure that we're as Andy Yan said, right now, all we're building is Ferraris. We need to be building Hondas. I think that's a really great way of describing what we're, the kind of housing we're building. It's just these luxury high-rise Ferraris. We need those Hondas. So if they're Hondas and they're 4 to 6 stories, I mean, that sounds great to me. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, for those that do pay attention, in July of 2018, the city zoned duplex across the whole city. There hasn't been any single-family zoning since then. There's been huge swaths of the city that has been rezoned, particularly since 2008 and the financial crash when Gregor Robertson and Vision got in. If I was to show you the property assessment roll right now for starting from 2008 forward up until 2024, it has quadrupled the value of the land and the air above it. And the reason of that is because of the rezoning. The good news is there is scads of existing zone capacity that we can grow into that is there now without inflating land values further. So what we need to do is slow down the rate of inflation through slowing down rezoning and then fill in the zone capacity by making it easier to build, by removing obstacles, making greater efficiencies, and yes, using materials that are going to be efficient in our ecosystem here. If we want to build this additional density, it has to be in balance. We need the community amenities, we need the infrastructure, we need the roads, the sewers. You can't just add all of this additional capacity. My principal objection is with the rezoning, the act of rezoning itself. I maintain, and the data demonstrates that we have more than enough existing zone capacity. So let's focus on making it more efficient and cost efficient to be able to build without inflating land values further.
It's One City's long-standing policy that we would like to see 6 floors and corner stores legal to build in every neighbourhood of Vancouver, including Shaughnessy, every neighbourhood in Vancouver. The reason why is because we have a housing crisis and too many Vancouverites are worried about losing their housing. We need affordable, accessible housing options in every neighbourhood so that when people can't handle the stairs in their single family homes anymore, they can access housing in their neighbourhood so that people can live close to schools and can live close to their jobs. We need a lot more housing, and I'm very proud and happy to say that 6 floors and corner stores has been the long-standing policy of One City, and I will definitely vote for it.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, Colleen's right on this one. The rezoning did happen, and I absolutely would support 4 to 6 stories, 100%. Yes, we need more of those, more housing in general, right? Yeah, so there's, yeah, without getting too far into it.
Yeah, so Colleen talked about taking away the high end and then building up that zone capacity, but the thing that she missed was that to bolster that low end of capacity is that we need a public developer on public land to build public housing for the public good. And that will do, thank you, and that will do a lot to take away that financial imperative that we're talking about. Another thing that would do a long ways to take away that financial imperative is that we can buy these apartment buildings that we're talking about that already exist, these 4 to 6-story walk-ups. It's called the right of first refusal. Montreal already does it, and we can fund that with a mansion tax on 1% on houses over $5 million, and we can buy these apartments that already exist and stop displacement across this whole city. Thank you.
Back in year 2018, I did run for mayor, and I did bring up this issue. They're like, don't have no high rises, just 6 feet, 6 stories, 4 stories, whatever. Yeah, they can redevelop whatever land they have now and put them in a housing somewhere else and build, then put them back where they were. So they're not misplaced.
There are 2 things to consider here. One is for public forum in regards with single unit having 4 to 6 stories in their neighborhood, right? We have to ask them first before doing this. And second, we have to legalize 4 to 6 story building in order to have the seniors to have accessibility, inclusivity, and affordability. But this comes together with all the lands in Vancouver, not just in a very diversified like downtown East Side or commercial Broadway. There's a lot of land in Spanish Bank. There's a lot of land in other areas of Vancouver. Let's talk about this and build the 4 to 6 stories. And legalizing this for everyone in the community, not just for the rich, not just for the poor, but for everyone who are part of Vancouver. Legalizing these things makes everyone happy. That's the end, that's the goal of everyone for this housing crisis. Thank you.
I'm getting tired.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here today. I have a question about the province. I know this is just a by-election and there's a lot of issues with the province that probably can't be handled in the next 18 months, but I still like to talk about it. The province seems to hold a lot of cards in terms of controlling rent, for example. Even increasingly in terms of zoning, it seems like they're basically usurping the city's right to control zoning. So I wonder if you could talk about the problems we have with the province and how you would be handling them, short-term and long-term, concretely, please.
Where do I start? Probably with bills 44, 46, and 47, where the provincial government has taken it upon themselves to basically take away municipal government's control over land use change adjudication. Why are they doing that? They continue this housing supply narrative deficit. We really should be asking ourselves some really primary questions. How much is our population really growing? What jobs, if the majority of it is coming from immigration, what jobs, what opportunities, what economic sectors, what industries are people going to be working in? This huge influx. What I'm seeing is sort of an if you build it, they will come economic development strategy for the future. We're going to use, for example, immigration headcount as fuel for the housing production industry. And it is being driven by profit. Growth promotion is about profit. And I think we need to be thinking about growth management, which is about livability and balance. So dealing with the province, I mean, I'm very disturbed by what they're doing and taking away the role and responsibility of municipal government, because it is the most direct form of government to the people. And we should all be thinking about that and speaking out to the provincial government on that basis. Thank you.
It's really important to me, if I get onto council, that to show leadership in tackling the issues that we face as a city, so that BC doesn't step in and solve our problems for us in relation to the housing crisis. I've talked at length about 6 floors and corner stores being our policy, but I'd like to also advocate to the BC government to do more to initiate non-profit housing in the city of Vancouver. The reason why is because government has such capacity to use government-owned land, get low interest loans that it can pay back over a long time, to finance non-profit housing, to provide housing that we need for us teachers, our firefighters, people that are on shelter rate incomes, people that work in Vancouver but can't live in Vancouver, for the people that are being threatened with eviction and dem-eviction that are going to have to move out of Vancouver. We have so much capacity as government to be taking more action to sort out non-profit housing. So that's where I'd like to direct my efforts with the BC government.
The BC government has the ability to fire city council, school board. They have the ability to crack open our Vancouver Charter and completely change it around. It is actually within their rights to completely remove the city from being able to govern itself. That's scary. That's really scary. And to me, the only thing that can happen is we need to use our voices. We need to be talking to our MLAs. This is, I mean, obviously there can be some communication between City Council and the province, but frankly, the province has been letting us down on so many levels. We need their funding for this housing crisis. They don't have our back right now. Same with the federal government. So what can we do? This is an area where we need to join together. We need unity right now, and we need to speak to our provincial elected officials to make sure that they're doing things that are in the best interest of this city. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to address the comment about immigrants. I mean, aren't we all immigrants on this land? I'm the son of immigrants myself. I'm very blessed that my parents came here and worked hard, and I think we should welcome immigrants, and we can do that. We can build housing for everyone here. In terms of your specific question about what we can do, you know, and you mentioned it a little bit, is that we do have a charter here. So the bills in terms of other municipalities, I don't know, they're a little, you know, it's a little scary, but we do have a charter and we can do things with that. One example is the empty homes tax. That was something that we had to ask the province to do to amend. They did that. Very good. I mentioned it earlier in my introduction about rent control. That's another thing that we would have to ask the province, that we asked the province to do. Now it's province-wide. And a third thing that I would like to do is ask for vacancy control. That is tying the rent to the unit instead of to the tenant. And that would do a long way to take away what we're talking about, the thread that unites this whole panel, that I think we're all in agreement, that financial imperative to kick us out of our housing and price our families and our seniors and our friends out of the city. Thank you very much. Great question.
I don't know really how to answer this question, but as a marginalized woman, every year that I fight for housing, every year that I have to lay down on my bed, wondering if I'm going to get evicted. I want that to stop. The RTB rules need to change. My daddy was the first generation of Canadian. I'm second generation of Canadian. I'm happy to be a Canadian. And we all should unite and get along. We all have to live here together, so why don't we just get along instead of fighting? So as a marginalized woman, I'm sick and tired of getting afraid of getting kicked out every month, every day, every year. So that's my life. And I want to be on city council so I can change that life. So I can change that circle, revolving door that I have to be put up with for the last 25 years since I lived in Vancouver, being afraid of getting evicted. Thank you. Love me. Vote for me.
As a case manager, I am always dealing with housing crisis.
of it.
I'm always dealing with housing issues. I am asking them, BC Housing, give housing for CLBC clients, give housing for MCFD, give housing to these people in the downtown east side. We are always asking them, but their solution is like they're numb, they're afraid to talk.